Alrighty, there we go. All right, already off the bat, you're throwing me off. You're on the wrong side. You're right over here. Ah, everything's out of whack now.
You got us all bent out of shape because you're wearing long pants.
I know. I was just saying it was. I mean, usually I have a nice, like at least there's a few weeks of like some nice 60-degree weather. It's like that's good. That's good shorts weather. And I honestly, if it wasn't rainy, I'd consider wearing shorts. But it's just with the rain and the cold, it doesn't work.
Did you get new shoes?
Well, I've had these for a while. I got these for New Orleans.
Just
Yeah.
a heads up, the air conditioners are covered now.
I assumed they were.
Covered them this couple days ago.
I'm not that we have to worry about it, but I'll double check to make sure the thermostats are on just heating and not the either or.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's going to be a day where all of a sudden it jumps up to 80 degrees and it's going to want to kick the air conditioners on.
Some magic button that keeps it at 69, winter and summer.
I have a question.
Sure. We're streaming, by the way, so
Oh, okay.
if that.
Morning prayer.
Okay.
From this morning, you referenced an article written by one of your
Yes.
professors called
Yes.
Be a Burden.
Yes.
Could we do like a quick class on that sometime? Because that's
Sure.
really hot.
Yeah, actually, we'll talk about that afterwards because we very well could wrap up Acts tonight because there's just 2 chapters left, and there's not kind of like the last 6 chapters. I mean, there's activity going on, but it's not like I don't have to explain to you like, and this is how a boat works because they're sailing to Rome. So
I would love to hear what this class
yeah, okay, sure.
say about that topic.
Yeah, because if we wrap up tonight, we've got next Wednesday. The Wednesday after that, I'm going to be out of town. But then after that, we've got, I think, 2 Wednesdays before Thanksgiving.
Oh, hey, we did like topical.
So, yeah, sure. I was going to ask if there were any topics, like one-offs, that anybody was interested in. So, sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, welcome to the end, most likely. We're in Acts 27. And Acts 27 is basically the beginning of Paul's very crazy journey to Rome by sea, where he gets shipwrecked. And then chapter 28 is once they kind of get over here to Malta and kind of the last little bit. But it's pretty straightforward in the shipwreck portion. So we'll just kind of go from there and see where we get to. So, Acts 27, verses 1 through 8. And when it was decided that we should set sail for Italy, they delivered Paul and some other prisoners to a centurion of the Augustan cohort named Julius. And embarking in a ship of Adramitium,
Come on, that's an easy.
well, when I saw it, I went adamantium, but I'm like, no, that's Wolverine's metal.
I would say
It's like adramitium.
There you go, Adramitium. There you go. I didn't get my afternoon nap today. It was a terrible day. Which was about to set sail to the ports along the wow, it's just me. Coast of Asia, we put to sea, accompanied by Aristarchus of Macedonia from Thessalonica. Boom. The next day we put in at Sidon, and Julius treated Paul kindly and gave him leave to go to his friends and be cared for. And putting out to sea, from there we sailed under the lee of Cyprus, because the winds were against us. And when we had sailed across the open sea along the coast of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra in Lycia. There the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing for Italy and put us on board. We sailed slowly for a number of days and arrived with difficulty off Cnidus. And as the wind did not allow us to go farther, we sailed under the lee of Crete off Salmone. Coasting along it with difficulty, we came to a place called Fair Havens, near which was the city of Lasea. All right, so we start off from Caesarea, and we're going to go, let's see, where do we go? We kind of go up, let's see, do we go, Mhm. Let's see. I think so. Okay, I'm sorry. There's two different tracks here on my map, so I'm trying to figure out which one. So they kind of went up because this is like they get a ship that's doing trade and whatnot. So they're kind of hopping port to port, end up going around, and then we come up to Myra, right? All right, and we're kind of going, come up to the Nidus over here, then come down to here, where they're kind of like, oh, it's getting rough, and so they're trying to coast along there. So a lot of what's going on here is that they're sailing, so the wind is a big factor. And what we'll find out shortly is that this is kind of late in the year. This is late, either August, September, probably in that time frame, maybe even as late as early October. But kind of getting towards the end of the sailing season before the winds start to get really treacherous. So they set sail and they're doing their thing. But once they get kind of over here, they're starting to face a lot of issues. So like the wind coming this way, they're trying to kind of go around and be protected from it and sort of come at it this way. But it's still becoming a problem. From here to here took about 10 to 15 days. Actually, from here to Caesarea to Myra was about 2 weeks. So I mean, it's not a huge. I mean, for us, I mean, but obviously, like I said, you're dealing with just sailboats, and then trying to go around this stuff. And so about 2 weeks to get to here, another 10 to 15 days, a week and a half, almost 2 weeks to get to here. So really almost like a month just to get to this point.
Did they have to probably stop for?
Oh yeah, they're making stops along the way. They got on a different ship when they got to what was it? Myra. When they came to Myra, they found a ship of Alexandria sailing for Italy. So, they were on a ship that was making port all these places, and then they get to Myra, and they're like, okay, here's another ship that's actually going to Italy, so we're going to go on to that one and continue on their way. So it wasn't like they didn't have the Roman chartered boat. They're doing what they can. And so Julius, the centurion in charge, he likes Paul. He's being friendly to him, so he allows Paul, when they make port, allows him to hang out with his friends. I mean, technically he's still under arrest, but it's a loose arrest. Paul's not a troublemaker. So things so far go well, and then it's like, things are getting a little dicey when we get to this point. Moving on, verses 9 through 12. Since much time had passed, so yeah, about a month, and the voyage was now dangerous because even the fast was already over, that being Yom Kippur, which is late in the year, Paul advised them, saying, Sirs, I perceive that the voyage will be with injury and much loss, not only of the cargo and the ship, but also of our lives. But the centurion paid more attention to the pilot and to the owner of the ship than to what Paul said. And because the harbor was not suitable to spend the winter in, the majority decided to put out to sea from there, on the chance that somehow they could reach Phoenix, a harbor of Crete, facing both southwest and northwest, and spend the winter there. So, a month to get to this point, at which point they're like, hey, well, Paul's saying, this isn't a good time. This is a bad time to be sailing. And so basically they're at this point, Paul notices that, he knows that this is a bad time to go. The centurion trusts the ship owners, the guys who own the ship and the pilots of the ship, which this is going to be hard to believe. But when you're dealing with people who are in business and their trade is involved here, they're not going to make decisions necessarily in the best interest of others so much as whatever's going to get them their stuff to port where they can sell and whatnot.
So is that why they sailed south to Crete instead of going?
Yeah.
Straight
Yeah, this is like, yeah, they're doing ship hopping. So yeah, they're dependent on these merchant ships. Oddly enough, the merchants are more concerned about their money. Hard to believe, I know. Just like, government taking forever to do anything. It's so foreign to us. That's why the Bible is not, it's not relevant at all. But the fun thing is, so like they get to here with great difficulty and after a lot of time, and they're just hoping to go to spend the winter. So I mean, even the pilots are like, well, yeah, we've gotten this far, which is like you're halfway there, and like, well, pack it in for the winter. But I mean, this is because the sea is now going to be too dangerous. It's too much. So they're hoping to. Even Paul says, wait, we probably shouldn't go any further. We should just stop. And they're like, it's right there.
Democratic rule. If you're democratic about it, it's a majority.
Well, sure, it's right. I mean, you can don't pull off now if you have to go to the bathroom. Just wait another 30 minutes. We're almost home, and then you get the mess in the back seat because kids can't wait. Same thing. It's right there. It is so close. Phoenix. So this is really only another 50 or 60 miles. So I mean, it's a distance, but it's not overwhelming.
What was the weather like?
It was getting bad. It was starting to get bad.
So it was like this time of year. Yom Kippur.
Yeah, I don't know like temperature wise, but I mean it's definitely getting stormy, and it's going to be getting very dark. And so Paul is, well, the fun thing is like, well, how would Paul know? Why is he so concerned? Well, in 2 Corinthians, which he writes before this, he talks about how he's been shipwrecked 3 times. So before this journey, he's already experienced 3 shipwrecks. So I would imagine at this point, he's very like, this doesn't feel right. Believe me, you don't want to get shipwrecked. So yeah, he's been through it before, and he's like, let's not do this. Meanwhile, the centurion's like, but these guys, they know what they're doing. Not as much. Any comments about that part?
I can see why it's shipwrecked 3 times.
Yeah.
Like the Great Lakes, there were 6,000 shipwrecks.
Well, I mean, yeah, and we have a lot better equipment.
It's the Mediterranean, right?
Yes.
But I didn't think that they had like winter weather, like we think of winter weather.
Not like what we would have, but definitely when, especially with the way, and we'll find out kind of in the next couple sections just how bad it gets, and even with a bit of stormy weather, it's chaos, and really especially before this, like when you're dealing with like a lot of Old Testament stuff, so hundreds and hundreds of years before this point, you only went out, like only certain people went out to sea. Like there were whole groups of people, like landlocked people, they were terrified of the sea because you went out there and it was like certain death. Jonah's a fun one because Jonah's like one of the oldest books, or way old books of the Bible. I'm sorry, Job is the older one. I'm saying Job and Jonah. Jonah is still an old book, 1,000 years before this. He goes to the port to run away because he's supposed to go to Nineveh, and he goes here. And the thing is, he boards a Tarshish ship, which means it's going to Tarshish or Tarsus, whatever, Tarshish. And the fun thing is back then, the idea of getting on a Tarshish ship meant that Jonah didn't care about his life because it was almost certainly going to crash. Which adds to Jonah's, like, the whole story where he's trying to flee from God, so much so that he's like, I'll just hop in the back of this Pinto. Everything will be great. Now, what bad could possibly happen? Same concept where it's like, flip the coin. So a lot of the peoples, whenever they encountered water, it was like death. A lot of ancient imagery revolving around like hell and the underworld, but was very much like the abyss, the chaos of the ocean. And even, I mean, it still exists around the time that Paul is, because in Revelation, when John is writing, he uses that water imagery, like the beast rising up out of the water, out of the chaos of the deeps. So yeah, it's, even though it's not like crazy like weather like we would know it, because of technology of the time, because of what people were dealing with, it's just so many things could go wrong. And so it's very, very dangerous.
Still the stormy season.
Yeah.
Season.
Yeah, which is why they're like, we're packing up for the winter, because it's just it's not worth it. Because once you get out there, even if it's like, oh, a clear day, I mean, it could turn, and it does.
Those ships weren't very, you wouldn't want to get on one.
No. In fact, it gets fun here. Here, stay with me. So 13 through 20. Now, when the south wind blew gently, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, they weighed anchor and sailed along Crete, close to shore. So they're like, okay, see, we're it's a nice gentle wind. Everything's going great. Okay, we're going to get there. But soon a tempestuous wind, called the northeaster, struck down from the land. And when the ship was caught and could not face the wind, because the idea is you turn towards the wind for stability, we gave way to it and were driven along. Running under the lee of a small island called Clauda, we managed with difficulty to secure the ship's boat, the lifeboat. After hoisting it up, they used supports to undergird the ship. Then, fearing that they would run aground on the Syrtis, they lowered the gear, and thus they were driven along. Since we were violently storm-tossed, they began the next day to jettison the cargo. And on the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands. When neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope of our being saved was at last abandoned. So, Cauda is somewhere, is like over here. So basically, they're like, okay, it's fine. Oh no, okay, and they throw the anchor over, whatever they had for an anchor, and hoping to try to keep them from not going all over the place. And so they manage to kind of get over towards here. So the wind is throwing them all around. They've got a lifeboat, and the way the lifeboat worked was that you'd just drag it behind you. But it's not great in a storm, because the lifeboat could be, smash up against you, or if you're trying to maintain, it's just not good. So they managed to bring the lifeboat up. After hoisting it up, they use supports to undergird the ship. Basically, they're throwing ropes around the ship to keep it intact. Like, they are doing all that they can to duct tape this thing. So what, Apollo 13? The same kind of, it's like, we've got these three things. How do we fix this? They're doing whatever they can from the outside to keep the ship together, which is how bad it is. So they're afraid that they're going to run ground. They lower the anchor. They start throwing the cargo over, the tackle, whatever they can get, pulleys, whatever they can do to lighten it up, and to even help drag with the anchor. And he says, neither sun nor stars appeared for many days. What would be the problem there? No navigation. Yes. There goes your way of figuring out where the heck you are, where you're going. And so many days without sun or stars. So, this is like a huge storm that's just blocking out everything. And no small tempest lay on, all hope is lost. So they are just like, well, whoops, I guess we should have stayed here. But yeah, it's pretty nasty. And, if this is 50 or 60 miles, it's not, once they're out, they're close, but it's still, they're out there. And then, moving on into 21 through 26, since they had been without food for a long time, Paul stood up among them and said, "Men, you should have listened to me, and not have set sail from Crete." Good job, Paul. "And incurred this injury and loss. Yet now I urge you to take heart, for there will be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. For this very night there stood before me an angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I worship. And he said, Do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand before Caesar. And behold, God has granted you all those who sail with you. So take heart, men, for I have faith in God that it will be exactly as I've been told. But we must run aground on some island. All right. First of all, they had been without food for a long time. They're not without food. This is the fun thing, is that the Greek word that's used there is a loss of appetite. They're so stressed out and so terrified and so anxiety-ridden or seasick, whatever it is, they have no appetite. So there's food, but nobody's eaten because it's just, tossed back and forth, and just, so morale is low. Morale is very low. But then Paul, I told you so. But see, this is how you do a proper I told you so. You say I told you so, but fear not. It's okay. It's going to work out. Now here's the one thing that actually I thought would be of a good conversation. Would be what Paul says here. He's like, look, my God spoke to me. He has given me his word that we will not be harmed. The ship will be lost, but none of us. We'll all be fine. But in verse 26, he says, but it could also, I think maybe nevertheless, but although we must run aground on some island. So, here's the key. Paul is not saying, don't worry guys, God's got this, we're going to be fine, so let's just keep going. Let's just go for broke. Just toss back some food, hold on, we're going to be fine. He says God's going to preserve us, but we need to get to ground. It's the great joke about it's not a joke, but like the guy who's in a flood and the waters are coming up, and he has to go up onto his roof, and then a boat comes by. Hey, you need help? He's like, no, God's going to save me. And then all these things. A helicopter comes by. Nope, God's going to save me. And then what? Does he drown? He ultimately drowns and goes up to heaven. He's like, why didn't you help me? And God's like, I sent you a boat. I sent a helicopter. What do you want from me? So kind of the same idea here, where he's like, look, God has promised me he'll preserve us. So there is the divine kind of intervention there. But it's also like, but we need to do something. Like, yes, God is going to work through us. If we're not stupid, he's saying like, this is the plan and this is how God is going to preserve us. Okay. We need to find ground. So there, it's not it's always a fun exercise to find that nice little middle thin line of knowing that God is responsible for all things. He will bring good things. Absolutely. We should pray and wait on the Lord. Absolutely. But we should also be doing things. It's kind of like if we want to fill up this church, every Sunday we want 300 people in here, which I'm not saying is our goal. I like what we've got. I'm very comfortable with where we're at. But you say you want like 300 people. Cool. So what are you going to do? You're going to come in here every day and pray for 8 hours. Cool. Hey, prayer is good. We're supposed to pray without ceasing, right? Awesome. But if you're not going out, talking to people, inviting people, God surely can, we pray, God fill this place up with, we want 200 more people in here. Great. God answers the prayer. Yes, I will make it happen. Well, how's he going to make it happen? He could have 5 buses break down right in our parking lot. Full of people? Sure. Or he could say, like, I'm going to send each and every one of you out to make friends and invite people to church. Either way, right? But it's never exactly clear. We don't know exactly how God is going to answer the prayer, so we're faithful what we have. So this is what Paul's like. He's like, hey, common sense says, like, instead of trying to beat this, how about we just, find ground and stay, lay low for a while. seems like a good idea.
I got a question.
Sure.
It seems to me, where'd they start at down?
Caesarea.
Why couldn't they have took a caravan of camels?
Like,
They could have went as far, it's pretty hard to go from there to Crete with a camel. But other than that, they could have got on a ship.
oh, they had sea camels over there, you know.
Sea camels. But they could have, couldn't they went, you think? by
Well, I mean, sure, they could have. I suppose they could have gone
Probably taken.
the land route. I mean, with having to stay over the winter, I mean, once they're on the sea, I mean, maybe it would have been a shorter thing. Honestly, I don't know that I've ever heard any reason why they particularly had to take a boat. Um,
More dangerous than a boat back then.
I'm going to be snarky and say budget issues. I don't know. I mean,
I'm just curious.
me being myself, I'd say, you know what? This probably cost a lot more. This was a lot cheaper. I don't know if that's the case. My cynical side says it is. But, you know, that's just me.
Well, we did anyway.
All right. All right. People saying hello on our thing. Hello. I'm being friendly. There we go. All right. Where are we at? Oh, 27 through 32. So when the 14th night had come, so now we're, 2 weeks have gone by, as we were being driven across the Adriatic Sea, about midnight, the sailors suspected that they were nearing land. So they took a sounding and found 20 fathoms. A little farther on, they took a sounding again and found 15 fathoms. And fearing that we might run on the rocks, they let down 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for day to come. And as the sailors were seeking to escape from the ship and had lowered the ship's boat into the sea under pretense of laying out anchors from the bow, Paul said to the centurion and the soldiers, "Unless these men stay in the ship, you cannot be saved." Then the soldiers cut away the ropes of the ship's boat and let it go. All right, so basically what's going on is there's, so they're just kind of like,
Adriatic Sea is way up.
it's kind of like, it's Adriatic Sea is kind of, I think it's the ancient way of referring to just kind of this whole area. So yeah, they're kind of angling, essentially they're kind of going around here and they're going to come up here. But it's just like, woo, yeah. So it's not going well. And they're getting, at what point, I'm not exactly sure at which point, or if there's little pockets of areas where there's, there's little outcroppings or whatever, but they start to realize that the floor is coming up pretty quick, so the sailors are like, we're going to crash. So they figure, like, we're just going to get out of here, get the lifeboat, and cut and run. So what Paul says here, when he tells the centurion, he's like, unless these men stay in the ship, you cannot be saved. He's not necessarily saying, like, wait a second, no, God said we're all going to be saved, so we all have to remain on the boat. Like, God's not going to save us unless he counts, 200 and some odd people. What he's saying is, like, if the sailors leave, we're dead. Like, God can do a great many things, but I mean, if our sailors leave, we have no one to sail this thing into a harbor or crash it somewhere safely, in the way that sailors can do this. So it's like, yeah, if they leave,
That's what he means by these men.
yeah,
Okay.
yes. Unless these men, these sailors who are about to abandon ship, unless they stay, we're all dead. So yeah, it's not like God is not saying, like, I don't, where's Hank? He's not there. All right, you're all dead. It's just that once the sailors go, there's no way to keep going.
That was kind of dangerous anyway, to just pull in along the shore there with rocks.
I don't know. Well, they probably felt that, it was safer on the lifeboat for them. I'm terrified of going out into the open water, so I wouldn't have even been there.
I wouldn't either.
it freaks me out on the open ocean.
I think they were one mast ships. All they were is,
They were pretty frail.
yeah.
This map shows the Adriatic Sea up here, going into the Mediterranean.
It's kind of the whole thing. Yeah, that's just what we call the Mediterranean and Adriatic. It's all kind of the same.
It's off the boot.
There you go.
Basically, that's all Mediterranean out there.
Oh, there we go.
The whole thing is the Mediterranean.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
different parts like the Caspian, the Adriatic, the Aegean.
yeah.
There are different areas of it.
Death water. That's what it is.
You couldn't see across there. I don't. I've never been there, but
I don't know. We used to go on whale watching trips off the coast of California. Those were fun, but you were never that far off. Like you could still see off in the distance. When we went on a cruise for our honeymoon, yeah, it was like, oh, this is fun. And then the next day when we're out to sea and there was nothing, I didn't like that at all. So
we used to watch the whales up on Cape Cod then, and in the springtime you'd watch the whales.
Mhm.
But there's also some mighty big white sharks up there. You didn't,
oh yeah.
so I'm a camel man.
So Ron would have gone the long way. Good choice. All right. So then 33 through 44. As day was about to dawn, Paul urged them all to take some food, saying, "Today is the 14th day that you have continued in suspense and without food, having taken nothing. Therefore I urge you to take some food. It will give you strength, for not a hair is to perish from the head of any of you." And when he had said these things, he took bread, and giving thanks to God in the presence of all, he broke it and began to eat. Then they were all encouraged and ate some food themselves. We were in all 276 persons in the ship. And when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship, throwing out the wheat into the sea. Now when it was day, they did not recognize the land, but they noticed a bay with a beach, on which they planned, if possible, to run the ship ashore. So they cast off the anchors and left them in the sea, and at the same time loosened the ropes that tied the rudders. Then hoisting the foresail to the wind, they made for the beach. But striking a reef, they ran the vessel aground. The bow stuck and remained immovable, and the stern was being broken up by the surf. The soldiers' plan was to kill the prisoners, lest any should swim away and escape. But the centurion, wishing to save Paul, kept them from carrying out their plan. He ordered those who could swim to jump overboard first and make for the land. And the rest on planks or on pieces of the ship. And so it was that all were brought safely to land. So, this has all been like... So they're coming up on this landmass here. And they see it and like, okay, we're going to beach the ship. So the idea is they've already tossed a lot of stuff over. They're tossing more stuff. They're trying to make the ship as light as possible and get it going as fast as possible. Because it's a greater chance that when ideally, once the ship beaches, it'll be light enough and have enough momentum that it'll go further up the beach. Which wouldn't be my thought process, but this is why I'm not a sailor. Good plan. Doesn't quite work because they hit a reef, the bow gets stuck, remains immovable, and then just the surf is breaking up the ship. So the idea is, because like when, when Peter was in prison and the door opened and he was going to escape, or he could escape, and the jailers were like, "Oh no, we're about to kill ourselves because we let these guys escape." Because the idea was if you let prisoners escape, then you suffered either their fate or death. So the idea was, well, let's kill the prisoners because if they escape, then we're done for. But the centurion, favoring Paul, prevents that from happening. So, and of course, then. And the word that Paul says comes true. Before that, Paul is doing a great thing. He's a prisoner. There's sailors, a centurion. He's a prisoner, and he's taking the lead. He is encouraging them. He's like, "Eat something. Come on, we don't worry." And he's saying, like, "My God has promised you'll be safe." And then he breaks bread. So, I wouldn't jump right ahead and say like, "Ooh, see, he's giving them communion and." Going into that, but it's this communal breaking of bread. So he's giving a blessing to God. It's it has shades of that. I mean, sure. But, he's sharing it with them and encouraging them to eat and joining with them. So, this is great servant leadership, what Paul's doing. So it's just really, really nice. As they crash on the upon the reef. But they were all spared. Questions or comments? Still would have taken the camel?
Oh, definitely. Get to sleep in a tent.
It's hard to imagine sailing that far and not being able to swim.
Yeah?
Setting out on a journey like that and not knowing how to swim.
Yeah?
That's called drowning.
The waves are too high, no matter how
Oh,
late.
really wanting to get somewhere.
It's probably cold water to
The
begin with.
prisoners didn't have a choice.
Well, yeah, they didn't have much choice.
They had 270
But-
people on that.
Yeah. So,
Weren't that big.
well, this
This
is,
would be a pretty good sized boat.
yeah. But still, I mean, and this is the boat that they're, trying to duct tape together to keep it from falling apart. So, I mean, big, but I mean, see, this is why I tell people, nature's not good. Nature wants to kill you. Don't, save the planet. No, the planet wants us to all die. We need to attack the planet.
They must figure out that with the passengers and the cargo, it's cheaper to go by boat than it was camel. Not safe, not safer, but cheaper.
Well, yeah, isn't that always the way? Talk to what was it those guys who do actuary stuff? What's that?
James,
Yeah. Oh, and
Christian?
is Christian?
Yeah.
No, yeah, no, he's. We've got a lot of math people. We've got a lot of numbers people. Anyway, yeah, but yeah, just the whole is it worthwhile to do a recall? Nah, let people die. The lawsuits are cheaper. Yeah, money, man. What are you gonna do? All right, well, we got a little bit of time. You want to just soldier through and polish her off?
How does this 27, 34? Is that just at the bottom of this?
What's that?
That's actually part of 28.
Oh, are you looking on the single sheet?
Yeah.
Oh, that's chapter 28. That's the next one we're looking at.
Okay.
Even though, I didn't change I didn't change the heading there. That's just a misprint. That's supposed to be Acts 28 verses 30 through 31. I realized late today that I'm like, you know what, we could probably polish it off, so I threw the single page together real fast. Sorry. No, it's 28. It's just 28 verses. Right. Yeah, it's. I screwed up all of the.
It's 28 continued there, man.
Yeah, the heading on the top should be Acts 28, 17 to 28, like that. Oh, there's no verse 29. I'll explain that. That's Acts 28 verses 30 through 30 to 31. That's just the last two verses of Acts in chapter 28. Sorry, I made it very confusing. There's no 29. I'm just trying to see if you're paying attention.
What he does when he doesn't like a verse, he just leaves it up.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So Acts 28 verses 1 through 6. I realize I'm way out of the frame here. That's all right. All right. After we were brought safely through, we then learned that the island was called Malta. There. The native people showed us unusual kindness, for they kindled a fire and welcomed us all, because it had begun to rain and was cold. When Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and put them on the fire, a viper came out because of the heat and fastened onto his hand. When the native people saw the creature hanging from his hand, they said to one another, "No doubt this man is a murderer. Though he has escaped from the sea, justice has not allowed him to live. He, however, shook off the creature into the fire and suffered no harm. They were waiting for him to swell up or suddenly fall down dead. But when they had waited a long time and saw no misfortune come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. So they end up in Malta. The natives are like, hey, cool. Come on, it's cold and rainy. All right, we'll take care of you. Snake bites him. Nothing happens to him. Their idea here, if you notice, justice is capitalized. This would represent like they believe justice is a god, one of the gods. So it'd be a real stretch here to say the God of justice, the one who takes, balances things out. That justice has not allowed him to live because obviously he's a prisoner. They could see this, and he's escaped. All right, but justice will have her day, so he's going to die. But God preserves him, and they think he's a god. Wouldn't be the first time. This is well-trod territory for Paul. All right, verses 7 through 10. Now in the neighborhood of that place were lands belonging to the chief man of the island, named Publius, whatever, who received us and entertained us hospitably for 3 days. It happened that the father of Publius lay sick with fever and dysentery, and Paul visited him and prayed, and putting his hands on him, healed him. And when this had taken place, the rest of the people on the island who had diseases also came and were cured. They also honored us greatly, and when we were about to sail, they put on board whatever we needed. So Paul just does his Paul stuff. The father of this well-regarded chief is sick with fever and dysentery. Of course, back then that could be very fatal. Not a great way to die. So, very, very deathly ill. And Paul prays, lays his hands on him, and heals him. So God is still preserving Paul and guiding his way. And this obviously pleases the people. So they prepare them very well to set sail from Malta up into Italy. Questions? See? Easy. Verses 11 through 16. After 3 months, a long time. After 3 months, we set sail in a ship that had wintered in the island, a ship of Alexandria, with the twin gods as a figurehead. Putting in at Syracuse, Syracuse, we stayed there for 3 days, and from there we made a circuit and arrived at Rhegium. And after 1 day, a south wind sprang up, and on the second day we came to Puteoli. There we found brothers and were invited to stay with them for 7 days. And so we came to Rome. And the brothers there, when they heard about us, came as far as the Forum of Appius and the 3 taverns to meet us. On seeing them, Paul thanked God and took courage. And when we came into Rome, Paul was allowed to stay by himself with a soldier that guarded him. So finally, they go here to here, all the way to Rome.
Is that where they got the camels then?
Or around. What's that?
They finally got the city to Italy, is that where they finally got their camel ride?
Oh, I think they still... I'm not sure exactly where they... Did it say where they... Second day we came to Puteoli? I don't know where that is. Oh, I do. It's here. There we go. Sorry, I didn't see that one on there. And then the Forum, so they kind of they sailed and then came up to here and then either kind of went further there and then inward to Rome. So probably no camels. Sorry, Ron.
Twin gods is a figurehead, that's the thing on the front of the ship, is that?
Yep.
what you're talking
Yeah, it was Castor and Pollux.
about?
Yeah.
That's where, in World War II, they went the same way from Syracuse up to Rome.
Cool.
No camel.
Okay. We need... what is it, Easter when Vivian brings the goats? We need somebody to bring camels for Christmas Eve. Oh, no, not Christmas, Epiphany. The kings. Oh, yeah.
Who's gonna clean up that mess?
Ron, he likes camels.
Yeah. There we go.
Ever see Frances out there?
France?
Frances the mule, she's got
Oh.
47 years old, no teeth.
Oh, Lord. All right. final little section here. Acts 28, 17 through 28. Yes, okay. After 3 days, he called together the local leaders of the Jews, and when they had gathered, he said to them, "Brothers, though I had done nothing against our people or the customs of our fathers, yet I was delivered as a prisoner from Jerusalem into the hands of the Romans. When they had examined me, they wished to set me at liberty, because there was no reason for the death penalty in my case. But because the Jews objected, I was compelled to appeal to Caesar, though I had no charge to bring against my nation. For this reason, therefore, I have asked to see you and speak with you, since it is because of the hope of Israel that I'm wearing this chain." And they said to him, "We have received no letters from Judea about you, and none of the brothers coming here has reported or spoken any evil about you. But we desire to hear from you what your views are, for with regard to the sect, we know that everywhere it is spoken against." When they had appointed a day for him, they came to him at his lodging in greater numbers. From morning till evening he expounded to them, testifying to the kingdom of God, and trying to convince them about Jesus from both the law of Moses and from the prophets. And some were convinced by what he said, but others disbelieved. And disagreeing among themselves, they departed after Paul had made one statement: "The Holy Spirit was right in saying to your fathers through Isaiah the prophet, 'Go to this people and say, you will indeed hear, but never understand, and you will indeed see, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and with their ears they can barely hear, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. Therefore let it be known to you that this salvation of God has been sent to the Gentiles. They will listen.'" So, word has not traveled to Rome. He calls the Jews together to talk about his plight and what's going on, and they're like, "We have no idea what you're talking about." Now,
That means they beat the camels.
they beat the camels. I mean, a long time has passed, because you remember, like, he was in Caesarea for like a couple years. So, like, from the initial, like, accusation when they're like, "Get him!" I mean, we're talking about at least, what, 2.5, 3 years have gone by? So, I mean,
Even then, we probably would have gotten there. But
we could have gotten there, but I mean, 3 years, I can't even remember last week. Like, if somebody told me about something that happened, like, "Oh, there's this guy," I'd be like, a year from now, I might, like, I guess I remember you telling me something about somebody. So yeah, either word hasn't gone, or it's gotten there and time has passed. So he begins to tell them, and they also, it's like, okay, we want to know about this Christianity thing, because we've heard that it's not good. That a lot of people are against it. So Paul starts telling them, and he does his thing. And he's expounding to them, testifying to them. Some believe, some don't. And some are disagreeing among themselves, so it's causing, them to rubble. And then finally, I mean, I would imagine after the ordeal, because it feels a little bit short. Paul, throughout all of his journey, he seems that, I mean, the people stoned him to death, and he gets right up. He's like, let me finish. But now he's like, he takes a few days preaching, and they're like, nah. He's like, you're just like Isaiah said, you're not, nah. I would assume this was probably might have contributed to his shortness, I guess. But I mean, it's what Isaiah said, so it's no biggie. What we're missing on 29 there is that what verse 29 is you'll probably have a footnote in your Bible that says, like, some minority manuscripts. So there are some old manuscripts that have a verse 29 that says something to the effect of it basically kind of repeats verse 25, but it just adds like and those who didn't believe were very, very loudly left departing Paul, and whatever. So because it's a minority manuscript, it's like not attested across the majority of manuscripts. They look at that and say, okay, that was likely something that was added, or maybe it was a duplication. But it basically repeats verse 25, so it was like, it's most likely just an addition that was added for emphasis or whatever. Oh, we can talk about that fun stuff. We'll see.
And I didn't think about this.
Sure.
A little bit. It said something, we have received no letters from Judea. How is communication handled? Because these cities and places were so far apart, how was word given?
Camel. Well, I mean, you'd send couriers. So, just the way like Paul would send letters. And he would send people to deliver letters.
How would they have been traveling? Because you've got
Oh.
this big area.
Either way, by land or by sea. I mean, whichever way, likely more by land. Oh, sure. Yeah, it wasn't like you weren't getting it right away. But that's why, like, when Paul is coming through and he's sending letters, it's while he's stopping in these places. And when he's in Rome, he sends letters to, the places that he's been. So, and this is going by, sending whatever couriers to take it by land, sea, whatever. So, yeah. By camel, yeah. Camel Express. How do you send letters?
I don't. Take too long to get there.
Very anti-post office over here. All right, so then the last two verses, Acts 28, verses 30 and 31. He lived there 2 whole years at his own expense and welcomed all who came to him, proclaiming the kingdom of God and teaching about the Lord Jesus Christ with all boldness and without hindrance. The end. So basically, he lived there for 2 years at his expense because he was basically under house arrest. So, I mean, he was still under arrest, but he had a lot of freedom. He was there for 2 more years, talked to people and entertained people, whatever. Basically, that's where the biblical account ends. So then the kind of church tradition and then the church historians kind of fill in some of those gaps where after those 2 years, Paul is basically let go because there's just the charges. The charges were baseless. Everyone had agreed over the course of the 5 or 6 years that this took, that there was nothing that they could charge him with. And I'm sure none of the accusers traveled to see Caesar. So after these 2 years, he's basically, not acquitted, but just like, all right, case dismissed. And from that point, Paul then kind of he retraces some of his steps, revisits some of those places. Hold on one second.
Wasn't he executed in that?
Well, yeah.
That was all around.
Don't spoil it. I'm getting there. So in the 2 years that he was in Rome, so while he's in prison, under house arrest in Rome, this is where he's writing Philippians, Colossians, Philemon, possibly Ephesians. It's either there or later. But yeah, he's writing those letters, sends them out. After the trial, or not after the trial, when he's let go, he revisits some of these places, and we get this from his other letters, like Titus, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Philemon. He talks about going to Crete, going to Miletus, Ephesus, Colossae, Troas, Macedonia. So in his later letters that he wrote after the imprisonment, he talks about visiting all these places. So he does actually fill in some of the gaps where after he's released, he comes back, he makes some stop-ins. At some point, he's arrested again. Now this is I think Claudius was the emperor. Well, Claudius was the emperor who expelled the Jews from Rome. Yeah. Nero, good old Nero. He was the one who is when Paul gets here. Either when Paul gets here or anyway. Paul is arrested under Nero. And this is like probably right around the time of where the great fire in Rome, and Nero blames the Christians for it. So, and then the persecution flares up. So when Paul is arrested at some point, he is beheaded, kind of caught up in this Christian persecution. very much in a similar way where Peter is taken as well during that time. Peter is crucified upside down. Well, he's crucified. He chooses to be crucified upside down because he doesn't feel worthy enough to die in the manner that Christ. Again, this is kind of extra biblical church tradition history. Paul is beheaded because he's a Roman citizen. You wouldn't crucify a Roman citizen. So he at least, yay.
Took the easy way.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you had a choice between being beheaded and crucified, take the beheading. Every time. So, yeah.
Who was the one that was on an island and they didn't kill?
John.
John, right?
So, Paul ultimately dies around 66 AD, give or take. Which is just, a few years before the temple is destroyed. So,
So, remind me again when the book of Acts started.
so the book of Acts starts way back in Pentecost, after Jesus ascended into heaven. I mean, it really starts at the ascension. So 32, 33 AD. So it covers, a good 30 to 35 years. Which, like I said, it goes quick, but it's a long stretch of time. That's because he's like, oh, I went from here, and then I went here, and then I went here. It's like, well, yeah, just to get to here was 3 months. Another 2 years, or not 2 years, but another few months there, and then 2 years. So everything is just drawn out.
Where did Timothy end up?
Where did Timothy end up? Oh, shoot. I'll look that up. Like Titus, he leaves in Crete. He brings Titus here and leaves Titus to organize those churches. No. That was later. Good question. I forget.
Paul went one city too far.
So any other either questions about tonight or Acts in general? Was this fun? Okay. Interesting.
It's good to review.
Yeah. Well, see, and this is good information, and it fills in a lot of, early growth of the church. Like I said, not my problem with the Book of Acts. It's not a problem with it, but it's just not like you go through the Gospels. I mean, every single thing is like, the depth of theology, and like you pull out all this stuff. There's certainly a good depth of theology in the Book of Acts, but there's also a lot of like, and then we went here. And then we went here, and these people stoned me to death. And then we went here. So there is just a lot of kind of, and the whole thing with going from to Festus and all the bureaucratic nightmare that was, and then the happy pig guy, Porcius Festus. There we go, the happy pig. It's just like it's good information.
I think it helps put it into context and makes it seem less abstract.
Okay.
At least to me it does.
Cool. I like it just for the early church aspect of like, this is just how it grew, because it's we have our ideas like what is it going to take to make the church grow, and it's just like, this is actually not a bad, when you look at Acts and you see how it really organically grew, that's good. And I'm not one of those who's like, we need to get back to the way it was in Acts, because, we're not. But I think there is something to be said about just the way they approach things, and just the way that Paul was just like, you know what, I'm just going to go out there and preach, and what happens, happens. He wasn't worried about, they weren't worried about growing the church. Honestly, they were worried about surviving. And the Holy Spirit took over. He was the one driving the whole thing.
Well, it's interesting, the Holy Spirit told them to stay out of
Yeah.
areas too, in Asia, I think.
Oh, sure.
Go to Macedonia instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing has changed.
Oh, Lord, no.
We're still acting the same way.
Oh, totally. And I do like how like when Paul has the falling out with with Barnabas, and there's that split. You know, Paul is always held up as like, oh, he's the mega apostle. He's, he can do almost like he can do no wrong. It's like, no, he had falling outs or fallings out, whatever. He fell out with people, and there were arguments.
And this last part where they're on the, I think, sort of not ready the ship, and it's like, told you.
Yeah.
That's the last thing you want to say to.
Right. And there's one of my favorites is when Paul is talking about the circumcision party. These Judaizers who are trying to get you to circumcise, telling you need to be circumcised. And he says, I wish they would finish circumcising themselves, which, I mean, he's basically saying, I wish they'd castrate themselves. I wish they did. And it's funny because, it's funny to me just because, like, that sounds like something I would say. Which tips me off to say, like, that's probably not the right thing to say. But some people look at that and say, see, Paul said that. He was mocking them and even suggesting, in a silly way, suggesting that they cut their manhood off. So, see, it's okay for us to do the same thing. It's okay to engage in the same kind of mockery. I've heard that kind of rationale, and I don't see it that way. It's like just because it's in Scripture doesn't mean that God says, yes, that was good. I mean, the whole Old Testament would say otherwise. Well, Solomon had a lot of wives, and it's like, and not once did God say, good job, Saul. In fact, it was a very big problem for him. No, it's like the whole, anything involving people in Scripture, generally speaking, I'm not going to say all the time, but a majority of the time, if it's people in Scripture, that's not the good example. Only when they're trusting in God and like they're on their knees and saying, Lord, have mercy. It's like, that's the example. But, when Peter is like, hey, you Gentiles, yeah, I'm so glad you're with us. Like, oh, crap, the Jews. I don't know you stay over on that side. And he's like, hey, I'm a Jew. It's like, yeah, Peter did a lot of good stuff. He did some boneheaded stuff too. You can't just generalize with what the apostles, they were men. They were just people.
How about Hannah?
What's that?
Hannah.
Praying for, well, that's a good example. Yeah, anytime it involves trusting in God, it's like, yeah, absolutely.
Carol was asking, where is Syracuse? Isn't it in Sicily?
Cilicia.
It's one.
Cilicia. Right there.
I thought that was,
Sicily.
It says
Sicily?
Syracuse in here. Putting it as Syracuse.
Yes, right there.
Right there.
that's Sicily,
Yes.
right?
Present day.
Well,
Present day.
back then it was Cilicia, yes.
Okay. Carol,
Let me double check I put it in the right spot.
yeah, you did.
I'm sorry. Cilicia. Sicilia. So, yes. But Sicilia is what it was called. Not Cilicia. Cilicia was elsewhere. Even when I'm copying it out of the book, I can get it right. Sailing and map making is not my thing.
Who redid the map?
Hmm?
Did you redo the map?
Yes.
Nicely done.
So.
Thank you.
Syracuse is in what? I can't see it. Yeah, I know where it's at, but I can't read it.
Sicily, yeah. Let's just say that, yeah. Let's go with that.
It wasn't pronounced that back then, evidently.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Cool.
He ended up in Ephesus.
Timothy did? Okay, there we go.
And
In Ephesus. Good times. Cool. Well, that's the book of Acts. Poor Edgar. He was the one who was like, I want to do the book of Acts. And then, like, as soon as we had the first session, his schedule changed, so he was working Wednesday nights. I felt so bad. He was all excited, like, yeah, I never do the book of Acts. I'm like, cool.
Now he doesn't have any time.
Well, hey, it's all on video, so it's all good. All right, cool. Well, then that wraps up Acts. And like I was saying at the beginning, we have 3 Wednesdays, I think, before Thanksgiving. One Wednesday I'll be gone. But we have 3 or 4 Wednesdays before Thanksgiving. So I'll just, I'll do one, just if there's a topic you want discussed, we'll do that. Or you have a request. We'll talk about being a burden to your family. Be a burden. Well, and it's not just a family, actually. That's a good, being a burden to people.
Thanksgiving is always the fourth Thursday of the month in November.
Yes.
Always.
Okay.
I didn't say that. That's what it is.
I get confused. I guess because if it's like, sometimes it's early and sometimes it's late. So I never.
So we gotta have,
Honestly, by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, I'm not even thinking about days or any time. I'm just like, oh, it's Christmas, Advent. So I'm just.
so we gotta have before Thanksgiving that night or the day before?
Thanksgiving Eve service? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Unless you don't want to. I mean, it's not a church holiday, so I whatever. I'm fairly indifferent with Thanksgiving Eve service. I make Jim preach, so it doesn't matter to me.
So that took him 5 years to go from where he started?
Well, it's a government operation. What do you want?
He could have put his camel in reverse and went quicker than that.
That's a long ways, though.
It is.
Like
Plus
walking
a
across the
couple of
United States almost.
bodies of water, they would have to either go way around.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't always land wherever you wanted. That's rocky coast. That's where they shipwrecked.
I mean, Rome did have a nice, roadway system, but I mean, still, yeah, it is far. And I mean, especially just like the way you had to plan it in order to have supplies. I mean, 276 people on a boat with food. I mean, they had to, that's why it's like port to port to port to port to port, because restocking. I mean, you would have had the same issue going here. It's just you wouldn't be able to drag as much, I wouldn't think. I would assume it'd be easier to put stuff on the boat and sail it than to drag it along or cart it along with you.
What actually, do we know from other writings, what actually happened when Paul appealed to Caesar?
Anything we have would be like church historians, extra biblical kind of stuff.
He
So,
was appealing that on innocent people Jews?
well, just the whatever charges. I mean, there were no charges. That was kind of the thing. There's no trial for him.
But by saying that, and he was a Roman citizen, they were obligated to haul.
Yep. As soon as he said, "I appeal to Caesar," it was like, "Oh, hands are tied."
It's just crazy.
But, well, and the thing is, like, so, at that point, the comedy is like, he says, "I appeal to Caesar," and that stops everything, forces him to go to Rome. Meanwhile, the people in charge are like, if he hadn't said that, we could have just let him go. So, our thinking is like, bonehead. But I mean, he had all that time with the centurion, with the prisoners, with the sailors. Believe me, probably didn't shut up the entire time. They're like, oh, that Paul's preaching again. But then, Malta, do you honestly think that Paul didn't say anything about Jesus as he's healing this guy? I mean, the gospel's going with him everywhere he goes. And he's in 2 years in Italy, and he's talking and sharing the gospel with people. So, there's great purpose behind it. It's just, yeah. And then to go back out, and he visited these places, and his plan was to go to Spain. He wanted to go even further, but arrested and beheaded.
So we say he was beheaded at about 66 AD,
Thereabouts, yeah.
and he was approximately how old?
It's a good question. Is Matt online?
Well, it had to be an adult at 32 AD because that's.
Oh, yeah.
when it started.
Well, he was alive when
How old was he?
Jesus was. He must have been in his 60s,
It's in its 50s.
maybe.
I mean, we don't have the exact date of his birth or anything, so it's all.
AI is saying his estimated age of death between 61 and 62 years old.
I mean, for us, young, for back then, old.
He went through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't have made it. Well, I wouldn't have made it past the first stoning. I would have been like, I'm out, I'm done. Or the first shipwreck, I would have been like, I'm just going to lay down and die here. So, yeah. I mean, good Lord, I complain when I go up the stairs. He went through 4 shipwrecks and being stoned and.
An awful lot.
It's tough.
I mean, till he got to Rome, but surprisingly, the sailors on the Great Lakes, before they had any steam engines or anything in them,
Mhm.
they had crews that would go out when there was a shipwreck and rescue people off the.
Mhm. Sure, yeah.
Some of them didn't make it. Some of
Yeah.
them froze stiff to the
Yeah.
mast.
Telling you, nature,
That didn't,
not good.
their boats fell apart too when they hit the rocks, but
Yeah. I mean,
then there was the Titanic.
water's like the open sea is some pretty nasty stuff.
It was dangerous back then.
I think even I was watching something about how like how like that for, I don't know if they do it anymore, but like the bottom of the hull, I guess, on ships where they painted it red, like every ship had like this red thing. It's like curious what the deal with that was, and apparently it was a special compound because before that it was whatever barnacles or whatever were starting to.
Or it keeps the barnacles off?
Or it does something to help keep it from deteriorating. With like,
Something in the paint itself.
yeah, where it helped protect that. It's like, well, he was just sitting in water. Tell you, don't go into the water. Did Jaws teach us nothing? There's no good out there. Stay out of the water.
I have a question.
Sure.
There are, over the thousands of years, differences of opinion or controversies on the Bible, interpretation of the Bible, yada, yada, yada.
Sure.
But as far as you know, does Acts stand pretty firm? Or have there been historically arguments about pieces and parts and
Like
whatever,
disputing
except for
Acts?
this Verse 29 thing.
Oh, right.
Just minor.
Nothing comes to mind particularly about because I mean Acts. I mean, if you have any issues with Scripture, I mean certainly any of the visions, and then the divine elements, people are going to just throw out and be like, well, that's not real. But as far as like just the
Great major sects of the church.
right, not really because I mean this.
The Roman Catholicism.
I don't think so because there's so many like signposts and markers with like the people who are in charge, the governors, the proconsuls, and they're named. So there's enough of that, and like the way the time periods match up, and like the Jews being expelled from Rome and all that it does. I mean, with church history and just other like Roman historians, I mean everything kind of lines up. And there's not, there's not really anything where you point to and be like, oh, well, see, that's just, fantastical. So I don't recall ever hearing Acts being a particular controversial kind of book. Early on, like the speaking of tongues, and then all that, and like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, well, that's your point of view that there could be no divine whatever, but. No, I mean, and really probably the only controversy in a church would be the speaking of tongues, and really that becomes a controversy in the 1800s in England and here. Damn Anglo-Saxons, man. Well, not the Saxons, no. Just white British and American people. Because, they're like, oh, we need to restore the real church, and see, they spoke in tongues. We need to do that. So yeah, that's a very recent
Down the power.
controversy. But other than that, I I can't think of anything. Cool. All right. Well, then we'll have Bible study next week. Come and find out. And then if there's any, if there's any other just like single, like day topics, or I mean, it could stretch for however long. But if there's like we'll just do kind of topical issue Bible studies for the next 3 or 4 Wednesdays. We'll get really deep into politics. It'll be fun.
Resident aliens?
What's that?
Resident aliens?
Resident Alien? I wouldn't do that as a one-off. That would have to be like a reading club.
Who would Paul pick for Saturday's game?
Oh, is this the big one?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, well, it's got to be like the underdog, right? So Michigan State.
Anybody but Michigan State, I wouldn't put on them.
Hopeless causes, right?
They might not even show up.
Like, I haven't even been paying attention, but I've noticed that the last few weeks they seem to have been losing a bit. Okay.
That's a rough time.
That's here in town too.
Oh, is it? Oh, is that this weekend?
Yep.
7:30.
It's a late game.
Oh, okay. So, ooh. I did find out the very first year I was here, that game is the best time to go shopping, like go to any Meijer, Target, whatever. Oh my gosh, it's wonderful. Yeah, do anything, like don't go up Grand River at all. But like, yeah, any kind of shopping around, oh, it's magical.
Yeah, but you're taking your life in hand to go in the car to get there.
Well, you just go around. You go around the outskirts. And after the game starts. After the game starts, you hit up Meijer. It's like, it's a ghost town. It is so great.
It's always been that way.
I loved it.
It's not too late.
You're
To
welcome.
the Lions.